The combination of Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes has been a formidable one that has resulted in the most dominant period for a single team in the history of the sport. However, today I'm not going to be talking about the on-track success, but more on the off-track decisions that have to be made by both Lewis and Mercedes. Now, I'm not going to be picking on some small piece of news and blowing it completely out of proportion by saying that Lewis Hamilton will definitely retire by the end of this season, despite the guaranteed success that Mercedes can offer him. This video has nothing to do with that, and this video is not supposed to be some massive clickbaity video that Lewis Hamilton will leave by the end of the season, but in this video I am going to talk about just some of the little things I've started to notice and some of the things that I've picked up on, and why, although Lewis Hamilton will most likely re-sign with Mercedes in the very near future, if he doesn't and does announce a shock retirement, why I will also not be massively surprised considering how much he's got going on in his life and all of the things that are going on at Mercedes behind the scenes. Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Aldas, and really quickly before we do get into it, don't forget, if you do enjoy the content on my channel, then don't forget to drop a like and smash that subscribe button as well, and don't forget to check out my social medias. Instagram and Twitter will be above. But guys, let's get into this one. Now, it must be said that it's not uncommon for Lewis Hamilton to keep people guessing until the 11th hour as to whether or not he's going to be re-signing a new contract, and this even goes back to his move from McLaren to Mercedes, and then even back in 2018 he left it until July and about 9 or 10 races into the season to re-sign his 2-year extension contract, which of course expires at the end of this season. And although we haven't reached that many races in 2020 so far, we are well past July and in reality running out of time, because as mad as it sounds, we are 3 months away from the end of this season and 4 months away from the beginning of the 2021 season with the launch of next year's cars. Now, much of this could be down to the chaotic 2020 schedule, but there's no doubt that Lewis is keeping both Mercedes and F1 fans guessing and leaving it tantalizingly close until the beginning of next season. And the reason why this is so important is that Toto has already stated that Mercedes have set a deadline for Hamilton to re-sign, which is until the end of the current 2020 season, because Toto specifically said that the team will not go into the winter break and a new season not knowing their driver lineup if Hamilton still hasn't re-signed. However, I do just quickly want to say that I find it quite funny that Lewis Hamilton is probably the only driver in the history of Formula 1 to be stalling to sign a new contract with the team who by the end of this season will be 7-time consecutive world champions and will most likely again have the best car next season due to the new rule changes, which I think just shows how much Lewis is genuinely considering his future, because to any other driver in the history of Formula 1, they would sign with Mercedes in a heartbeat. Now, as far as why he hasn't signed a new contract yet, in an interview with Sky he said that he didn't feel comfortable negotiating his contract during the current global situation, especially with so much uncertainty over many people's jobs around the world. And whilst I do understand that to some extent, and I totally respect him for saying that, there are also a lot of people who work at Mercedes whose jobs depend on Lewis Hamilton, and even though Mercedes are dominating and not showing any signs of slowing down in F1 anytime soon, there must be a small bit of anxiety within Mercedes, both in terms of the people working at the factory and even the people running the team, knowing that their number one driver still hasn't signed a new contract for the immediate future, because if Hamilton were to leave, there would be massive performance and financial ramifications for both the F1 team but also Mercedes as a brand. And this brings me on perfectly towards my next point, because not only does Mercedes' number one driver not have a contract for 2021, neither does their team principal Toto Wolff. Now, this is arguably the biggest factor, because the bond that Toto and Lewis have is arguably the closest driver and team principal bond on the grid. Lewis has reiterated many times that he doesn't see himself at Mercedes without Toto, and that he's one of the biggest reasons why he's there. Now, Toto and his future in F1 is a whole different video, and in fact, a little while ago, I did actually talk about Toto and his future in Formula 1, so definitely go check that video out if you're interested. The thing is, Toto is not like any other team principal, because he actually owns shares within the Mercedes F1 team, as well as having shares in both Williams and Aston Martin. It's difficult to say if all of Toto's business dealings within F1 are purely financial and will have absolutely no bearing on his future at Mercedes, but the fact that he owns shares in the other Mercedes-powered teams, and with everything brewing at Aston Martin for next year, and the fact that Toto and Lawrence Stroll clearly also seem to have a close business relationship, I just can't help but think that there is something else going on that we're not quite seeing just yet. So this is where the spiderweb just gets really confusing, because we have two very key members of a winning Formula One dynasty that really should have re-signed months ago, considering how strong Mercedes look for the future, but both seem to be holding out for the other, whilst at the same time both having lots of financial interests and incentives, either outside of Mercedes or, in the case of Lewis Hamilton, outside of Formula One with all of his various businesses. Lewis Hamilton as a brand far eclipses anyone else on the grid, and his social reach is truly unprecedented in F1. But it's not just the celebrity status that he has. Lewis is also a keen businessman, and although it's never gotten in the way of his driving, proven by the fact that he looks stronger than ever in 2020 and on his way to a record-equaling 7th world title, he's also got many commitments outside of F1, such as his businesses. An obscure example is Lewis Hamilton's part ownership of a vegan burger restaurant in London, and then of course there is his booming collaboration with Tommy Hilfiger, which now in 2020 and after only 3 years is already into its 5th season and 5th different collection, which is truly amazing to see how people are still loving the collaboration between the two giants. Now, these are just a few examples of Hamilton's life outside of F1. There's also the social injustice and diversity campaign that Hamilton is at the forefront of right now, and all of the energy that he's already put into trying to help diversity campaigns in F1, and the way kids from different backgrounds, both in terms of ethnicity and also financial backgrounds as well, can try to begin racing even if they don't have all of the funding. And all of these things that drive him outside of Formula One, although they aren't blurring his focus when it comes to winning, at some point you've got to ask yourself, and I'm sure Lewis is thinking about this all the time, when are those commitments going to become big enough for him to start thinking if F1 is still the most important thing in his life? When does he decide that he should dedicate more of his time to his fashion business, his fight for social justice, and also his fight to help improve the environment and educate people on how they can do their bit as well? For me, the big question with Hamilton as to when he will leave F1, which is different to other drivers, is not when is he going to lose the speed or get overtaken by the next generation, but more when will his commitments outside of the car overtake his desire to win inside of the car, because that's going to be the big determining factor as to how long Lewis wants to stay in Formula One. So, in closing, this video isn't a Lewis Hamilton is leaving Formula One or Lewis Hamilton should leave Mercedes after this year, because 99.9% of the time, and probably right now as I'm recording this, he is putting pen to paper on his brand new contract. But yeah, 99.9% of the time, probably immediately after I post this video, Lewis will most likely re-sign a 2-year extension contract with Mercedes until the end of 2022 to see how he feels after the first year of the brand new regulations. And I'm guessing this will also come immediately after Toto Wolff also himself re-signs a new contract, probably closer to a 3 or a 4-year deal with the Silver Arrows. But what I'm trying to say with this video and the conversation that I'm trying to start, and also the question I'm asking you guys, is that although all of these points in isolation don't really seem to have a connection, when you put it all together, it only takes one big change to happen, like Toto leaving Mercedes, and then Lewis leaving really doesn't seem so crazy. He's obviously still got the hunger, and he's obviously still in his prime. I don't see Lewis in the same light as I see Seb, who lost 2 championships to Lewis in 2017 and in 2018, and then got beaten by a younger teammate who just came into the team, coming towards possibly the end of his best years and trying to find a team that can take him and a team where he feels motivated to race, which he's found in Aston Martin. Lewis is not a driver who looks for a team or looks for a seat. He is an all-time great. He is a megastar in Formula One. The teams themselves have to go out of their way to try and convince if they think that they can offer him something he doesn't already have at Mercedes. But what more has he really got left to prove except for chase a few records? Like I said, I don't think Lewis is leaving at the end of this season, but at the same time, I also wouldn't be surprised or shocked if he decided to call it a day. He's been on top of F1 for years now, and really quickly, just to end the video, I want to say a quote from one of my all-time favorite movies by Christopher Nolan, part of his Batman trilogy, The Dark Knight, and that is, "You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain." And to be honest, I don't see Hamilton as someone who will drag his career out any longer than he really believes it's necessary. Well guys, there you go. That is my video on Lewis Hamilton. Now, let me know all of your thoughts in the comments box below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Have you also picked up on these little hints that perhaps kind of hint towards Lewis Hamilton ending his career in Formula One sooner rather than later? Again, this video isn't really a Lewis Hamilton is leaving at the end of this year or anything like that, but I have just picked up on a few little things, and let me know if you guys have also picked up, or do you think that I'm kind of just clutching at straws and Lewis Hamilton has got a very long future still in Formula One for the next 5-6 years, and maybe even beyond? I don't know. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments box below, and if you did enjoy this video, then don't forget to drop a like, smash that subscribe button, and don't forget to check out my social medias. Instagram and Twitter will be above, and guys, I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.